This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts.
Hello there, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you the newest episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com. Also on iTunes. And we have a Facebook page. Just do a search on the Horror Movie Show, and there we are. Lots of fun. So I hope you had a good Halloween last week. We've got a slew of new and old movies to talk about. The first movie we're going to talk about is another one of those goofy English Simon Pegg comedy horror movies. This one's got a science fiction twist to it. It's called The World's End, directed by Edgar Wright, co-written by Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. Simon Pegg, of course, probably best known these days as Scotty on the Star Trek reboot. Mm-hmm. But before that, he had a very funny series on English TV, and he parlayed that into Shaun of the Dead. And he continues on with a lot of his good buddies that he's been working with from Shaun of the Dead and then Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
With pretty much the same plot in every single one of them.
They call this a trilogy.
It is a trilogy, yeah.
Not that they have anything to do with one another.
No, but there's similar plots.
Similar plots where the extraterrestrial happens to them.
Something out of the ordinary. Yeah. Very out of the ordinary. This one begins, and the whole first half hour, even 40 minutes, is just about Simon Pegg's character, who is a real loser named Gary King. And his one moment of glory in his pathetic, stalled at the gate life is this great pub crawl that him and four buddies went on back as they were graduating from high school. Yeah. And of course, they never even finished it. Yeah, they never even hit all 12 of the pubs. When this is pointed out to him, he realizes that he has one more mission. And he gets together the Miracle Mile.
The Miracle Mile.
Or the Golden Mile, something like that. The idea is that in this small English town, there's 12 pubs, and you stagger from one to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
Winding up at the last pub, which is called The World's End. However, halfway through the journey, Simon is in the bathroom and he's talking to a surly, silent youth, and he finally gets so annoyed with the quiet youth that he pushes him, and the youth angrily answers back, and the next thing you know, Simon's in a death match, and he's actually pulling the kid to pieces, and it turns out he's some sort of robot alien monster.
With blue goo.
Blue goo all through his body.
Yeah.
But you can pull these blue-blooded creatures apart and
very easily
beat them to death with their own arms and so on. Crack their heads open.
I don't think it's possible to beat them to death because they are kind of
you break their
robots.
Heads. They seem to.
They are robots.
Yeah. And if a couple of them are mangled, they can build one of them back into a whole one again using parts from the second. There's a scene where a couple of young women robots are beaten up to the point where they've come to pieces, and then suddenly one of these women comes back and she's got the other woman's legs where her arms would normally be. And a formidable fighting machine with four legs all spinning in different directions.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a horse's legs, with four legs.
Yeah, no.
These ones were opposite, kind of put on the wrong way.
Well,
and she was flailing
big,
them around
scary, kicking
very
legs.
Long arm, leg kind of thing. And she was trying to knock their heads off with her.
Yeah, she was a fighting machine. And that's it. It takes till halfway through, and then suddenly this sort of quest to not be a loser for Gary King turns into a quest to just get to the last pub and survive these strange alien creatures.
But the thing is that he has to go to each pub.
Yeah.
He's not going to circumnavigate any of the pubs.
Not going around him.
He wants a pint at every single pub.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, if he doesn't do it now, he's going to be the complete loser he thinks he is.
Everybody else thinks he is.
Yes. He has to achieve his goal.
Yeah.
Even though he knows that this whole town is full of alien robots.
Yeah.
he refuses not to go to these pubs.
Yes, and his goofy friends, of course, have to go along with him. It's a good cast. Lots of people that you've seen in other Simon Pegg movies. The big guy, the big fat guy, Nick Frost, he's in as one of his buddies, Andy. Martin Freeman.
That guy can run.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Either
Whether
they
really
cut
him, I don't know.
Either they cut quite a few times, but he seems to be sprinting.
Yeah, I don't know that he sprinted for as long as it appeared in the movie. Martin Freeman is another one of the group, Oliver. Martin Freeman, of course, from the original Office, and also The Hobbit.
Yes.
He is the Hobbit.
He plays Bilbo.
A couple of other guys who show up a lot in English movies, generally as sort of villainous or slightly villainous hoodlum types. Paddy Considine plays Stephen, and Eddie Marson plays Peter Page. I've seen him playing a murderous lunatic in movies before. And the other name actor, probably best known to Americans, is Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
He plays their favorite high school teacher.
Yeah.
Whether he is an alien or merely working for the aliens or the only one who understands and believes that the aliens are a force for good.
Yes.
It just goes on and on and on. And ultimately, the one thing that everybody can agree on is skinheads are bad. So, yeah, I don't want to give everything away, but it's very silly, very funny, I thought. And I liked it much, much better than Hot Fuzz, but probably not as much as I liked Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
So I would put it at number 2 of Simon Pegg's 3 movies.
I can't remember much of Hot Fuzz, but I remembered I did like it.
Well, same idea. Simon Pegg is a new cop, a by-the-books officer who comes to this small town. Nick Frost is his second in command, and Simon has to basically battle this conspiracy that he realizes is going on in this small town.
Yeah, at one point, I don't know, I remember that...
Wasn't it witchcraft, human sacrifice?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a while since I saw
He didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was like this. People
it's fantastic.
Yes, and then they find out that, yes, indeed, it's true.
Yeah.
And then everything goes nuts.
And not just like there's a conspiracy of a few people. Everybody in the village except Nick Frost is in on it. Everybody else is in on it.
Yeah.
And it comes down to just those two guys trying to save everybody.
Right. That's pretty much what's going on here.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Except for Simon Pegg's character is a little, I don't know, he's very outgoing. He's trying to relive his past. Yeah. He's obviously a damaged kind of individual. Yeah. He's trying to drag his friends who he hasn't seen in ages.
Well, he's done terrible things to every one of those guys.
Yeah, and so...
Some of them, like real earth-shattering, terrible betrayals.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, they begin to remember why they were friends back in the day. Because just little things, like they're driving along, and one of them says, "Hey, that tape, that sounds just like the tape that I made you back in the 80s." And he says, "That's the same tape."
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's life just was put on pause in the 80s.
I like
and he hasn't changed a bit.
He's driving the same
crappy car, and it's still registered in Peter's name.
His friend's name.
So anything bad happens, it all
goes on
Peter's bill. Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is the same car. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the same tape."
Yeah.
It's like, how long does a tape last?
It's like same socks, same clothes, same everything. He is still the same loser he was in high school.
Yeah. This is why he has to finish this.
Burning desire. He needs to complete something in his life.
Yeah.
He's never completed anything.
Yeah.
He's just been a loser since high school.
And he felt that their attempt to do this mile pub crawl was his attempt at perfection sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they didn't complete it, he felt that this was the best thing they'd ever attempted to do.
Greatest night of their lives.
Yeah, and...
meanwhile, the other four guys have gotten married, they've got kids, they got good jobs, and he's a welfare bum.
Yeah.
Simon Pegg is not a winner in this movie.
He looks rather thin in this movie.
He looks pretty seedy and decrepit. Yeah. I think he put some effort into looking bad. He looked a lot healthier in A Terrible Fear of Everything.
Yes.
Fantastic Fear of Everything.
Yeah.
Which we talked about not long
And even
ago.
then, I mean, he was paranoid and delusional in that.
Yeah.
because of childhood trauma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
no doubt.
I liked that movie. I thought that it was a very well...
Did you like it more than World's End?
Yeah, actually I did.
Did you? Yeah? Oh, I quite like World's End.
I didn't say I didn't like World's End. I just liked that one better.
Okay, I would put World's End ahead of that one. I really did like the blue-blooded robot aliens, and they'd spend way too much time trying to come up with a name for the aliens. And, you know, the aliens themselves had said, we're not robots. which is funny. We're not robots. So they're coming up with names like Nobots.
Yeah.
Mobots.
Some of the things in the background, they did put things in the background that were associated with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. You just have to look for them.
I also like the fact that the first 3 pubs that they go into are identical.
Yeah.
They're absolutely identical. They are the same pub inside.
Yeah.
With virtually the same barman behind the bar. And we realize later on, of course, it's because the robots have taken over this entire town.
Yeah. But there are some pubs that look different.
Yes, they eventually
and the way they name the pubs in this movie, it has something to do with what happens to them at each stop.
That's right.
So the names of the pubs are very succinct to what the storyline is.
Yeah, they have a point to them. Okay, so that's our thoughts on The World's End. Let's get on to another English movie. We're going to talk about both the 1973 and the 2006 remake of The Wicker Man. The original is considered a real classic of horror. Directed by Robin Hardy, written by the playwright Anthony Shaffer, who wrote Sleuth, is probably his best-known work. His brother Peter wrote Equus and Amadeus, so a real family of playwrights.
Ah.
Yeah, 2 brothers, both of them award-winning playwrights. Wicker Man 73, it stars Edward Woodward as Sergeant Howie, the always fun Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle, Diane Cilento as Miss Rose, the lovely Britt Eklund playing Willow. Her voice dubbed.
Was it?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, of
absolutely.
course, she has an accent.
She has a Scots accent. Ingrid Pitt as the librarian, and the always hilarious Aubrey Morris as the old gardener / gravedigger. Aubrey Morris, to me, he's best remembered as the junior parole officer of young Alex in A Clockwork Orange.
Oh.
He's the guy who sits on the parents' bed.
Yes.
And after making a clumsy pass at young Alex, he takes a glass of what he thinks is water from the mother's bedside table and guzzles it down. Only when he reaches the end does he realize that it's full of false teeth. He's just drunk a glass of false teeth juice. That's a very
classic scene.
Oh, it's wonderful.
He's so creepy.
He is very creepy. And in this movie, he just does more of the same. He's sort of giggling and laughing as he digs graves. And
this reminded me a little bit of Rocky Horror.
The movie?
No, it's just the time period of the movie. It was
73.
Wicker Man. I watched it in reverse order. I watched the new one, and then I watched the old one.
Oh, goodness.
Because I figured the new one might be better than the older one.
No.
And how wrong I was.
Yes, indeed.
I can understand why there's a cult following of this thing. It's got all these weird things in it, especially with the kids running around and the songs that they're singing. And there's a nudity and
you're talking about the old one?
Yeah.
The 73.
Whereas the new one has none of that stuff in it.
It's very cleaned up for American audiences.
Americanized.
Yeah.
It's so sanitized that it's just not good.
No. The original is set on a small island off the
Scottish
north of Scotland. Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle. It's called Summerisle. And he is king of all he surveys. And basically they are nature worshippers.
Yes, they're druid kind of.
Wiccan. Nobody knows what the druids were like. People think the druids were something, but nobody knows what the druids were actually like. But yeah, I think it goes back to Wiccan and worshipping nature and praying to fire gods and nonsense like that. And it's very nicely done because Edward Woodward's character, Sergeant Howie, is horribly upset.
He's a Christian
through and through. He's a good Scots Catholic, and he finds this just disgusting. And he has a couple of nice philosophical conversations in the movie. The best with Christopher Lee. he says to Lee, "Good God, man, are you not giving these children a proper Christian education? Do you not tell them about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" And Christopher Lee goes, yes, himself, born of a virgin, impregnated by a ghost. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you got your stupid beliefs, we've got our stupid beliefs.
That's right.
You know, why can't we all just
And
get along?
he even mentions that it's an older story than the Christians.
Yes, that's right.
You know, it's like...
Of course it is, yeah.
So it's like it's not even original.
No. Yeah, so that's nicely done. And of course that puts Edward Woodward's character on edge. He just doesn't like being in such an alien place. And they are a world unto themselves.
Well, what we have to say, first of all, he's looking for a missing child.
Yeah, somehow or other, the word has got to him that there's a child missing on this island. But we don't really know in the original who sent him word.
No.
How it is that he wound up coming there.
He gets a postcard from the island saying that there is
That's the second one.
No. He gets a letter with a picture of the girl that's missing.
Right.
Even in the first one.
Right.
And he knows...
We don't know who sent it.
We don't know who sent it, but we know that a person is missing.
Also, if the people of Summer Isle have deliberately, they've gone out of their way to get this Sergeant Howie there, when nobody on the island seems to know him, how do they know so much about him? And how do they know that just sending this question about a missing girl is going to bring him specifically to the island? He flies in his own cop airplane.
Yeah.
And, of course, when he wants to leave, the radio is smashed and the engine isn't working.
No, actually, it just doesn't go.
Oh, that's right. There's
that's the second
That's
movie.
The second one has the radio.
We're getting confused here.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, the British one has this great feel about it. And it's so well done. And the peculiarities happening all around are quite natural. And it's like, I like the fact that they have the nudity in it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's kids running all over the place.
Right.
I like the fact that they have these weird songs coming in and out.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee plays it just so well.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly this movie was made for him.
Right.
And he actually did it for free.
Right.
The part was written right for him.
Yeah.
So it was a vehicle for him. And I guess he was very, very well known and popular back then.
Yep.
This was something for him.
Did you know that the version that is available, the 1973 version, is made from incomplete copies, that in fact whoever it was that was storing the original negative wound up burning it?
Yeah. They were clearing out the old negatives.
Yeah.
And just the day before they decided to throw out all these old negatives from all these other BBC or whatever English movie house, they needed the room. His negatives came in the day before, and they just loaded it in with his and carried it off, destroyed it.
So there's a big scene missing between Christopher
There is
Lee.
some debate whether or not that was done on purpose.
To make it more...
No, because they figured that there were certain factions that did not like the movie topic.
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
And that they threw it away on purpose just to destroy it.
The English have a terrible tendency to clear things up, to tidy things up into non-existence. Terry Jones of Monty Python learned that the BBC was going to bulk erase the original master video copies of Monty Python's Flying Circus. And he went to the BBC and he said, "I'll buy them from you. I'll buy them for the cost of the videotape." So he gave, £30 per master tape.
Yeah.
Now he owns the originals, and when the BBC wanted to show Python again for the 20th anniversary, they had to go to Terry Jones and say, "May we borrow those back?" But, they were just going to erase them.
Yes.
And they've done that with so much great English comedy and drama over the years.
Well,
for the cost of a blank videotape, they've erased so much classic, great entertainment.
Yes. But that's not unique to them. They were doing... All the movie houses at one point they had these huge storage areas, and it was costing them lots of money to maintain. So they decided, hey, time to get rid of all this stuff.
Well, that's really...
And
penny wise, pound foolish.
Well, now they realize that.
Yeah, I know.
Now they know that there's a market. It could be the silliest movie in the world, but somebody
put it on DVD and somebody will buy it.
Yeah. And not only that, but if you wanted to get rid of the original stuff, somebody's going to buy it.
Yeah, of course. It's really silly.
It's like you don't just throw it out.
So, I agree. I think the original is significantly better than the 2006 version, which was written and directed by Neil LaBute. It stars Nicolas Cage as the main character, a cop again, Edward Malice. And I like the name Malice. It's M-A-L-U-S, which is reminiscent not just of the word malice, but also reminiscent of the witch's hammer, which was the Malleus something.
That's funny that you should say that, because I was reading this somebody else that says, malice comes from male and phallus.
Oh, I suppose it could do that too, yeah.
I was like...
Yeah, but it also reminded me of the witch's hammer. Ellen Burstyn plays Sister Summersisle. They've added a middle S to Summerisle to come up with Summersisle.
They didn't think Americans could say Summerisle.
Summerisle, yeah. Kate Behan plays Sister Willow. Frances Conroy plays Dr. Moss. Molly Parker plays two sisters, Rose and Thorn. Lily Sobieski plays Sister Honey. And Diane Delano plays Sister Beach. You might notice with these names, Moss, Willow, Rose, Thorn, Beach, and Honey, they're sort of an outdoorsy group. Now these women are obviously from the beginning
Wiccans.
Yeah, they're obviously like they worship their bees and the sun and plants and so on.
And it seems like the men are the drones.
Very few men bothered with. They're silent and they're in the background and they're scared of the women.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you see men, they're working.
Yeah.
They're all working, and they are drones. That's what they are. Just drones. It's like a beehive.
Yeah. Yeah, they're necessary for reproduction, but this is a woman's colony, and the women are calling the shots.
Did you recognize the fact that like 80% of the dialogue was the same as the original movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it's ineffectual, I thought, compared to the first movie.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying, 80%?
Oh, yeah.
That's quite a high percentage.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if I'd say 80%, but certainly a lot of it is. It's just so thin and lightweight compared to the original, and the original is very slow by today's standards, but it manages to come up with a certain amount of dread, whereas the Nicolas Cage version, and it starts with a whole other thing where he's pulled over this station wagon, a mom with her little girl in the back seat, and the little girl's a brat, but because he's pulled them over to give them a ticket or whatever, they get hit by a giant truck, and the car explodes, and
they never find the bodies. They say they never find the bodies. Now, how can that be?
Well, it's because in his mind, anyway, it becomes part of sort of supernatural, and it's one of the reasons that he's chosen, I suppose, to be a sacrifice on Summersisle.
Now, I have to admit, even though I didn't like this movie, the rationale and how they get him to the island is much more solid.
They did. They also explain at the end how in the first movie they basically just grab Edward Woodward and stuff him into the giant Wicker Man and burn him alive. In this movie, they at least break Nicolas Cage's legs so that he'd be stuck in there.
Yeah.
There was no reason why Edward Woodward shouldn't have been able to kick out some of the wicker walls and just climb down. And as I said earlier, there's no good explanation for why Edward Woodward is the right man.
The perfect candidate.
Yeah, and they get him right where they want him.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be a virgin and all this stuff.
And we know he's a real prig. He's
but at the very beginning, the two cops are talking about him, saying how he's been going out with this one girl and they've never even been to bed, right?
Not until marriage.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, well, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a virgin. I mean, they don't know his every move. But I'm just saying. So, how they happen to get the perfect candidate.
It isn't well explained. Whereas the Nicolas Cage version, Sister Willow is an old girlfriend of his, and he comes looking for her daughter that has gone missing.
Now, this movie, the second movie, was shot on Bowen Island, which is one of our Gulf Islands,
in
just
BC.
outside of Vancouver.
It's supposed to be set in what the Americans call the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Puget Sound.
Yeah, the U.S. The Washington
they're a little
State
north
version of the Gulf Islands.
Yeah, they're a little north of where they say they are. And plus, some of the interior shots were shot down in Vancouver in some of the old clubs.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it was around BC.
Yeah.
Hollywood North, that's us.
Mm-hmm. Nicolas Cage, just his acting in this, I did not.
So annoying.
Oh, it's just he's talking tough to these little kids.
Yeah.
Any of you guys lying? I'm gonna arrest you all.
Yeah,
it's like
arrest everyone.
He's from L.A. or something like that, and
San Francisco.
He has no jurisdiction in Washington whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yet he keeps flashing his badge around, saying, "I'm the law. I'm the law."
And there isn't even a telephone on the island.
And that's
completely
the thing.
Cut off.
It's like he doesn't pretend that he is the ultra Christian.
No.
Like in the first movie, which makes more sense. Yeah. Because this guy is just, spouting off scripture and all that, which I thought this is great.
Yeah, Edward Woodward was a good it was a good battle of beliefs between Christopher Lee and Edward Woodward.
Yeah.
In this movie, there's none of that. There's no great philosophical interest in this movie, which is a shame because that's what makes the first one.
Exactly. I mean, it's like he's running around trying to figure out what's going on. His ex-girlfriend saying, "Don't trust anybody."
Yeah. Nothing is as it appears.
Yeah, and at the same time, she's lying to him.
Yeah.
They're all lying.
Everybody's lying to him.
It's like, I don't know. Since it was the first one I watched.
Very contrived, the second one.
Yeah, the first one I watched, I just went, this is the silliest movie. Yeah. But when I watched the original, I said, oh, this is what they were trying to do, except for they did it poorly.
They watered it down, as they often do with remakes. And
and also for the American audience. The majority of American audience would not really like the original, I don't think.
Yeah, well...
Because especially, the Midwest...
Young people, I think, would find it very slow. That's all they're trying to do is update it and make it more exciting, but I think they just failed.
It wasn't more exciting.
No, it wasn't.
I thought the original was more exciting.
Yeah, and it definitely has more of a sense of impending doom, whereas the 2006 remake with Cage is just annoying.
It is. That's what I found it. I found his whole character annoying.
Okay, well, let's get on to the next movie. This is another comedy horror, sort of horror. It's called Rapture-Palooza. It's a 2013 movie directed by Paul Middleditch, written by Chris Matheson. Stars Anna Kendrick as Lindsay. She's the main character. Might recognize her from the Twilight movies. She was also with George Clooney in The Air Up There. Is that the name of it? The Air Up There, I think. He's a corporate hitman. He goes in and fires people, and she's just supposed to be learning the business from him. And she seems like a very empty, two-dimensional character, and we realize that actually she's far more human than George is, with all his affability. He's a much lonelier, much more empty human being. But anyway, so Anna Kendrick carries this movie. Playing the Antichrist is Craig Robinson, big guy from the American version of The Office. And he was also in another movie where the Rapture featured, This Is the End. Yeah,
that's right.
He's the big black buddy in that group of James Franco and all those other goofballs.
That's right. He's got a mouth on him.
Yeah.
He's just, I think
Hot
that's
Tub
it.
Time Machine. He's
just got the rudest mouth on him that you can possibly believe. And that's what he does in this movie.
Yeah.
That's all he does is just trying to pick up women.
Well, he is the Antichrist.
Yes, but at the same time, in those other movies, he was doing the same thing. He seems to play the same character.
Yeah, well, I do think he's a little one note. He's joined in the cast. John Francis Daley plays Ben House. Thomas Lennon plays Mr. Murphy. Ken Jeong plays God. Everybody remembers Ken as the squeaky little Asian guy in the Hangover movies.
And he's also in Community.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of these actors show up in that. Rob Corddry plays Mr. House, who is Ben's father, Ben being the boyfriend of Lindsay. Paul Scheer plays the security wraith. John Michael Higgins plays Mr. Lewis, that's Lindsay's dad, and Rob Hubel plays Morgan, another character.
Who's the neighbor, the guy with the mowing?
I don't remember.
He was the guy that directed Hell Baby, one of the...
Oh, was that Thomas Lennon?
Yeah.
Yeah. He co-wrote and starred as one of the priests in Hell Baby, which we reviewed a few weeks ago.
Yeah, with Rob Corddry. And
that's right, yeah, Rob Corddry starred in that. Yeah, and Rob Hubel was in it, and Paul Scheer was also in it. Hubel and Scheer played the cops in Hell Baby.
Yeah.
So, again, you got quite a few groups down in LA.
Yeah, there's at least four of the characters.
Buddies.
Yeah.
And I know one common thread for most of these comic actors is the Upright Citizens Brigade, UCB, which is very big and very large improv group that's been going down in LA for a long time. You can go catch them on Friday and Saturday
I think they've got a website, and and they all do little projects together. They do web zines.
They're more interesting than Second City, but that they're along similar lines.
Yeah,
they're an LA-based
Second City.
LA-based comedy and improv group.
Yeah.
So this is funny. It begins, as you'd expect, with everybody who's able to be raptured into heaven. And this girl, Lindsay, the main character, her mum is among those who's been raptured, played by Anna Gasteyer. And she was sent back. She got to heaven and she was found wanting and sent back to Earth. And she's really broken up about this.
All she does through the whole movie is cry.
Why me?
Why, God? Oh, why? and she's the only one that's ever been rejected. From the. And the reason she was rejected is she got into a line, some sort of line.
She started bossing
and she was convinced that somebody cut in front of her, and she started to complain, and so they sent her back to Earth.
You're in heaven, you shouldn't complain. So that's it, and now the Antichrist sits at the head of the world government, played by Craig Robinson. Of course, his foe is Ken Jeong. Does God... I didn't get to see the end of this.
Yes, God shows up.
God does show up.
Of course he does.
Is it right near the end?
Yes.
Yeah,
and they have a fight.
They have a fight, yeah.
Yes, and from there, who knows what happens. I'm not telling you.
No.
Anyway,
I'll finish watching it.
It's just this movie to me was very, very funny, and I enjoy the humor because everybody's been raptured. The people that remain on Earth are basically on their own. Quite a few people were raptured, so there's not a lot of people left, which was surprising.
Not in America, anyway.
Surprising, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very surprising to me because you would expect to be less.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway,
our main character Lindsay says at the beginning something like half the people, but it looks like a lot more than half have vanished.
Yeah,
we don't see them go.
But I like the fact that there are other plagues that are happening.
Yeah,
like these locusts.
Oh, I love the locusts. Yeah, they're like evil little insects with semi-human faces. And if you get bitten by one of them and you swear at them or something, they just scream at you, "Suffer! Suffer!"
Yeah, that's all they do. Is they just sit around and yell at you. And much like the crows.
Yeah.
The crows are doing...
Foul-mouthed crows.
The crows are swearing at you. And that's all they do.
That's all they do. F you. F you.
And then there's
stupid loser. F you.
These giant meteors and rocks, small...
Flaming.
Yeah, are landing on all sorts of people. And it's like rain. You just get out of the rain.
Just get under cover when the flaming
and it's
hail
like
comes
matter
down.
of fact. This is just a part of life.
Yeah.
These things are around you, and the lead actress I love her attitude.
You just have to accept it.
She just, let it go. Yeah. Just let it go.
No point kicking against the prick.
It's like, like if you sit there and argue, it's like arguing at a wall. Yeah. Just leave it alone.
Exactly.
I'm gonna live my life the best I can.
Yeah, that's right. Thomas Lennon winds up coming back as a zombie. But he keeps mowing his lawn. When he won't stop doing that, somebody steals his lawnmower, and then he just walks around his lawn pretending.
Yes.
In his mind, he's pushing a lawnmower.
He comes into play at the end of the show.
Oh, good. And Rob Corddry plays the boyfriend's father, and he's just a total sellout. So he can't do enough for the Antichrist.
He works for the Antichrist.
That's right.
He's one of the, just one of the people that are on
middle management type.
Yeah, he's on the estate. He does something on the estate, like keeps care of the...
He's like middle management, and, the devil is always going to need middle management.
And he's trying to convince his son that, this is the way to go. Yeah. You got to get a job here because...
I can get you in.
Jobs are hard to find. Not a lot
work for the Antichrist, and you got a job for your short, miserable life.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like the fact that the Antichrist shows up and destroy some major cities in the world.
Right.
And they destroy
weapons.
They destroy Chicago, and Mr. House says, this is a quote from, it says, "There's no good reason to blow up Chicago, except for the food, the weather, and the people."
And the people, that's right. Yeah.
and a lot of little things like that throughout the whole thing.
It's well written. We could compare this with
Hell Baby.
Hell Baby, but Hell Baby was much more frenetic, much more fast-paced, and much more sort of free-form, whereas this is like a real movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, I found that...
Much more competent script, I would say.
I found Hell Baby was just basically making fun of different movies.
Yeah.
With the boxes.
It's like Scary Movie almost.
Yeah, almost.
It's a parody of horror movies.
That's right.
Whereas this is a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not trying to parody anything.
No.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about it, is that they were different, but they were similar in their comic.
It reminded me more of Zombieland than Hell Baby, because Zombieland is a real movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
As much as it is a funny horror movie, a funny zombie movie, it's not really a parody of zombie movies.
Right.
Just as this isn't a parody of horror movies, it's just a funny take on a really weird idea of and Armageddon.
This movie, I mean, if you are sensitive to being as crude as you possibly can, the Antichrist has just got this foul mouth on him. And the funny part of it is that he says all these things to this girl who he wants to marry.
Yeah.
And it's basically the rudest stuff you've ever heard.
Horrible character.
And she just sits there and takes it and, just plays along with it, and just her expressions just kill me. I mean, it's like
whatever.
it's like you want to do that to me, okay.
All right, well, let's get on to the last movie of this episode, The Hills Run Red. Now, this one from 2009, I was on a Facebook page, horror group, and the director, Dave Parker, was on the page, and somebody was complimenting him on this movie, so I thought, I've got to download it and recommend it to Mark. So we watched it. It, as I say, directed by Dave Parker, written by John Carchietta, John Dombrow, and David S. Shaw. Stars Sophie Monk as Alexa, Tad Hilgenbrink as Tyler, Janet Montgomery as Serena, Alex Wyndham as Lalo, Danko Jordanov as the villain Babyface, and William Sadler, who's the only name actor in it, as the legendary horror filmmaker Concannon. Mm-hmm. Strange name, Concannon.
But when I saw him, I went, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
And it kind of wrecked the whole fantasy of this being a horror movie.
You think it should have been
a cult horror movie?
A no-name actor?
Yeah, I think it would have worked better with a no-name actor.
Because he's real low-grade sort of name actor anyway.
Yeah.
We just saw him in All Superheroes Must Die. Wasn't he the villain in that one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. When he was in it, I just said, okay, then this cult movie that they can't find the negatives for and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to...
It's a legendary movie titled The Hills Run Red, and the idea is that this guy Concannon made this movie and showed it a couple of times, and the audiences basically went nuts watching it.
Yeah.
And then it vanished, and nobody's seen it.
So the only
all that remains is a theatrical trailer for it.
And posters.
And some posters, yeah. The young man, Tyler, is searching for this movie, and him and some friends.
Yeah, he wants to do a documentary on finding
finding and maybe showing some of this movie. So he tracks down Alexa, who is the daughter of Concannon, and she's a junkie stripper.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful girl, hey?
Yeah. She has
Sophie Monk.
She has a nice body. There's no doubt about that.
And the best lips I've seen in a long time. A real honey. Anyway, she's the daughter of the filmmaker Concannon, and so Tyler rescues her
from the strip club,
cleans her up, gets her off the smack, and basically uses her along with his girlfriend to go and try and find Concannon. And she is useful, and she is helping him, but why is she helping him?
Right.
And I don't want to give everything away, but I'll just say that the movie, the Hills Run Red, is a work in progress, and they're still filming scenes, and they don't use stunts.
Yeah.
They really film murders. So it's a snuff movie.
Yeah, it's a snuff movie.
But it's an ongoing snuff movie, and we see the reels that Concannon has shot, and there's hundreds of them.
Yes.
Just stacks and stacks of murders on
he's been shooting
tape.
for, decades.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
And the guy is obviously insane.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think he's just in for it at this point for the rush of the realism.
Yes, yeah. He's just been murdering people for so long.
Yeah.
But he's
never
also
be
a great artist.
He's never going to finish the movie.
No. And then by the last half hour, the movie starts looking more like Macbeth, with bodies dropping left, right, and center.
Well, it's an interesting way that they show this movie, in that there are bits of the original classic being cut in with the documentary.
Bits of horror all over the place.
Yeah, so it's like you'll see these terrible scenes, and sometimes it's just like a 1 second flash little
just
bit.
A real moment.
So you're constantly being barraged with these images. Of the original, and the original is shot on completely different format, so you can see the difference in texture and the lighting and everything from what the documentary is being filmed in, and then what is being shot about shooting the documentary.
Thank goodness, though, it's not all handheld footage.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that, but it's not a found footage.
And there are some really gross scenes with people peeling their face off and things like that.
It is very bloody, very a lot of nudity. It's not at all recommended for young kids.
No, not at all. I'd
say the same thing for the 1973 Wicker Man.
Yes.
Arguably the very best thing about that is the very long scene in which Britt Eklund runs around without any clothes on.
She was actually
singing a song.
She was pregnant when she did the movie.
Did she? Oh,
and there was
explain why her breasts are so large.
And she wouldn't let them shoot waist down.
Right.
And they used a body double in some of the scenes.
Right.
But that was after she left the set.
Oh, okay.
And she was really, really mad that they used a body double, because she did not want people to think even that she was being shot full nudity.
Totally naked, yeah.
So she was not happy with that.
All right. Well, anyway, Mrs. Peter Sellers, and she's also Mrs. Rod Stewart. She's a good-looking woman.
I think she can 70s. Speak better now.
Yeah, but she's got a Swedish accent.
She's been in a number of movies. I can't remember offhand, but
she was in the one Flashman movie they made. She played Duchess Irma, the Ice Princess, as Flashman calls her. Yeah.
Well, was this earlier on in her career then?
Yeah, 73, fairly early on. If she wasn't married to Sellers then, it was right around that time that they split up. They weren't married that long, but they did have a kid or two. So she might have been pregnant with one of Peter's children. Yeah. Okay, well, back to The Hills Run Red. I think we probably talked enough about it. Would you recommend it, The Hills Run Red? I think I would.
So they've got a character in it called Babyface.
Yes, the killer.
I guess if you love slasher movies, this is a good slasher movie.
Right. It's better than the average slasher movie.
Yeah.
Better than Jason.
Yes, and I think that not my cup of tea for horror.
Neither of us is huge into that.
But there are some really explicit scenes in it.
Rapture-Palooza?
I liked it.
Yeah, recommend that one.
Although, not for little kids. It's not a comedy for little kids.
No.
Just the stuff that comes out of the Antichrist's mouth is just rude.
There's a lot of cussing in The World's End, too. However, I would say that's probably safe for little kids if you don't mind them hearing four-letter words.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot of F-bombs, I think, in all these movies except maybe the Wicker Man 2 movies.
Yeah.
They play those fairly clean.
Because they're in a religious background.
Yeah, but there's lots of nudity and stuff.
Yeah, but
in the first one.
that's part of life. Nudity was fine, which is kind of makes me...
Yeah, but she's working a spell. She's working a spell on the cop at that point.
Well, on the second one, but not in the first one.
In the early movie, Britt Eklund is dancing around in her room, and she's touching the wall, and Edward Woodward is thrashing around and banging his head against the wall because she's singing to him to come and enjoy her body.
Yes.
And isn't nature wonderful?
Yeah.
And he manages to hold off on the temptation.
Yeah, but why?
Would have saved his life if he'd gone and not been a virgin.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. Is like, why would she do that if they were going to sacrifice him?
Just to tempt him. Just to devil him.
I don't know if so much devil.
Oh, yeah. No, she's torturing him. This is all part of driving him half crazy, because they need to get him half crazy in order to follow their horrible plan.
Yeah.
And offer himself up willingly as a sacrifice. He has to go to the site of the sacrifice willingly. And he does that.
Okay, that was the
They have
deal.
to do that in both movies.
Yes.
She's just basically teasing him. And it's not for any nice reason, I don't think.
Well, and that's the reason I like the original as well, is because it wasn't such a matriarch.
No. It was a weird town.
It was just a very weird town.
Yeah, on this little island in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and I love the fact they had a good discussion about, this sacrifice is supposed to bring back the crops and things like that, but what if it doesn't?
Right.
Then you're next.
Yeah.
It's like
Summer Isle.
Yeah, I thought that was a real good point.
Indeed, yeah. Some plot holes in the original, but nowhere near as bad as the remake with Nicolas Cage by Neil LaBute.
Yeah.
And The World's End. As I say, I really liked it. Second of the three movies that Simon Pegg has made about humans not seeming to be what they actually are.
Yeah.
The veil being rent from the temple, so to speak, and seeing what's what. I think this is funnier than Hot Fuzz, but not as good as Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah. Typically, when they're making up, if they're doing something original like Shaun of the Dead, it was a twist on a common theme.
Right.
And you're young, you experiment, you do these wild things, and then you try to recreate it with another movie or something like that, and you never can quite not recreate it.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think they're
very similar in tone, but I thought this had enough twists, and I really liked the blue robot aliens. I thought they were nicely done. A good monster.
Yeah, and I like that huge thing, that robot that was walking around town that they thought was a statue. Yeah. Suddenly, it's
sort of a Gort-like thing.
Yeah, except for a very triangular.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it looks like modern art.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for this episode, folks. We'll be back next week with another new episode. I have no idea what we'll be talking about, but it'll be something.
We'll be older and wiser, whatever.
We will. All right. So I'm going to say